if you're a caregiver, you've almost certainly felt this frustration.
Mm.
You've prepared everything. The towel is out, the water's warm, the soap is right there. And yet, when you ask your loved one to take a shower, you get, well, a blank stare.
Or just a flat-out refusal.
Exactly. Why does something so routine, so simple, suddenly become this invisible wall?
It's an issue that causes so much stress, and what we're diving into today,
Yeah.
it completely reframes that whole experience.
Okay.
We're exploring a concept from behavioral gerontology called stimulus control. And if you take one thing away today, it should be this. The problem, the overwhelm, it usually isn't coming from the person.
It's coming from the room itself.
It's coming from the sheer chaos of their environments.
That's a huge shift in perspective. So instead of thinking, oh, they're just being difficult or they forgot how, the science is telling us to, look at the clutter on the counter.
Basically, yes. Our whole mission here is to unpack that idea. Because the real barrier is something that sources call stimulus overload.
Stimulus overload.
Think of the brain like a computer, and taking a shower is the main program you want to run.
Okay.
But in a typical bathroom, you don't just have one program open. You have, I don't know, dozens of background apps running, all draining cognitive energy. That's the overload.
So you've got all these competing visual cues, mixed signals, like too many tabs open on a browser. The whole system just slows down and freezes.
Precisely.
Yeah.
When an aging nervous system has to filter 20 different pieces of information just to find the shampoo bottle, it runs out of processing power. It just freezes up.
That freezing analogy is so relatable. Okay, so let's dig into that. Why a bathroom? Why does this one room become such a sensory obstacle course?
Well, it's really the perfect storm of sensory input and, frankly, physical hazard.
Okay.
Let's just start with the visuals. You have shiny chrome, you have mirrors, complex tile patterns, glass doors.
Reflections everywhere.
Reflections everywhere. And all of those surfaces, they distort light and shape. So for a brain that's already struggling with depth perception, those reflections can look like water on the floor, or the patterns can seem like they're moving. It's exhausting.
And that's before you even add in the usual bathroom clutter.
Exactly. Then you add the sound. The acoustics in a bathroom are often really harsh, lots of echoes. Then you have the temperature changes, the steam building up.
Right.
And on top of all that, you layer on the cognitive noise. 10 different bottles lined up on the shelf, all similar colors and shapes, and maybe half of them are empty.
So every single object becomes a question.
Yes. It demands identification.
Yeah.
It demands a decision. And the result of all that, the consequence, is what we call behavioral overwhelm.
And that's what looks like stubbornness.
It looks like stubbornness or laziness, but it's a legitimate cognitive shutdown. The environment is just screaming too many questions at once, and the brain's response is to do nothing.
The environment's screaming and the person goes silent. That leads us right to the science then, because it sounds like the fix could be surprisingly simple.
It is. The research is so compelling because it's not about expensive remodels. It's about removing that cognitive friction.
Okay.
I was really fascinated by this 2025 study from Lukoc, Williams, and Dillenberger. It followed a husband who was caring for his 79-year-old wife. She had Alzheimer's and was really struggling to shower independently.
And what was different about their approach? I mean, most people's instinct is just to give more instructions, maybe a little louder.
Right, to overhelp. They did the opposite. They used these very simple, very low-pressure interventions. They meticulously reduced all the distracting items.
So getting rid of all those extra bottles.
Every single one that wasn't needed for that specific task. They set up a clear, repeatable flow. And, crucially, they used what's called a prompt hierarchy.
A prompt hierarchy.
Meaning they gave only the lightest, most subtle guidance needed, and then they'd back off the second she started the action.
So it's minimalism, but for function. What were the results? Was it measurable?
The results were honestly transformative. Her ability to start and finish the task on her own shot up. But just as importantly, the husband's stress.
Yeah.
It just plummeted.
Wow.
Their mornings went from being this, daily battleground to being peaceful again. And that is a perfect definition of stimulus control. It's the art of engineering the environment to make the right choice, the easiest and most obvious choice.
Okay, that's a powerful principle. Let's get practical then. So you don't need a demolition crew. You need a decluttering strategy. The sources break this down into 3 core steps.
Exactly. And step 1 is all about reducing the noise. The core idea here is that clarity equals calm.
Clarity equals calm. I like that. So we're talking visual decluttering, but where do you even start? I feel like most people would look at their bathroom and think, it's not that cluttered.
Think of every single object that's out in the open as a piece of visual data that has to be processed. The rule is simple. If it's not needed for the task you're doing right now, it gets stored away, out of sight.
So all the duplicates go, not 7 half-used bottles of shampoo.
Just one shampoo, one body wash, that decorative soap dish, the basket of lotions, they all go into a cabinet. The brain should not have to filter through 7 similar shapes when it only needs one.
And you mentioned high contrast being important. How does that work?
Oh, high contrast is your best friend. It makes the target object pop. So if you have a white towel, don't hang it on a white wall or a beige hook.
Put it on a dark rack.
Put it on a dark rack so it stands out instantly. Same idea for soap. If the walls are light, use a brightly colored or dark soap bottle. And then you can use those items to create a path.
A visual pathway to follow.
You place the items in the exact order they'll be used. Shampoo first, then body wash, then the towel right where their hand will go. You're designing the sequence so they don't have to search or remember what's next.
That shift from searching to just following a path sounds like a huge energy saver. Which brings us to step 2, the subtle prompt hierarchy. And this seems like the hardest part for a caregiver, right? Because the instinct is to jump in and start talking.
It is so hard because verbal cues feel helpful. But when you jump straight to a command, like now pick up the soap, you're actually creating more cognitive work. And worse, you're speeding up something called learned helplessness.
Learned helplessness.
They learn that if they just wait, someone will eventually tell them exactly what to do. So the part of the brain that initiates action, it just stops trying.
So the rule is, use the absolute smallest prompt that works. Let's walk through that hierarchy, from the lightest touch to the strongest.
Okay, so you always start with the lightest one, which is the environmental cue.
No words at all.
Not a word.
No.
You just place the item, the sponge, the toothbrush, directly in the path of their hand. You let the environment do the talking first.
And if that doesn't work?
Then you move up, just slightly, to a gesture cue. You could lightly tap the item or, briefly hold it up to show them. You're just visually isolating the target.
Still no words.
Still no words. If that fails, then you use a pointing cue, a subtle open hand gesture towards the bottle. It gives a very precise focal point.
Okay, so only after all of those nonverbal cues fail do you start speaking.
Exactly. And even then, you start small. A short verbal cue, just one word, like here or soap. And only as a final resort do you use the longer verbal cue, the full instruction. Use the shampoo now.
And you said the key is to fade that prompt immediately.
The moment they start the action, you go silent. You back off. It protects their dignity and it preserves their independence for so much longer. It changes the entire dynamic from I'm telling you what to do to I'm setting you up for success.
I love that. And that success is then cemented by step 3, building predictable routines. This is where you mention automaticity.
Yes, automaticity. It's a powerful idea.
Let's unpack that. What is it exactly?
It's basically the idea that the body remembers a sequence of actions even when the conscious memory of how to do it is fading. It's muscle memory.
We all have routines we do on autopilot.
We're creatures of habit. And for aging adults, that rhythm, that predictability, it's a huge source of security. We want to remove all the guesswork.
So you design the task like a simple flea chart. What's the model the sources suggest?
They suggest a simple 3-part model. Start, wash, finish.
Start, wash, finish. Simple.
And the genius is you limit the steps within each phase to just 2 predictable actions. So for the start phase, it might always be 1, lay the towel out, 2, turn on the water.
Okay.
For the wash phase,
Right.
1, hair, 2, body. And for finish, 1, towel off, 2, apply lotion.
It's structured, it's repeatable, and if the environment is already set up to match, the body just kind of takes over.
The rhythm reduces anxiety. You're not frozen by choice. And this is where things like that shower stimulus map or a simple tracker become so useful.
Right, you mentioned that. It's like a spreadsheet.
It can be.
Yeah.
It just lets a caregiver track which triggers are causing problems and what prompt level actually worked. It turns guesswork into useful data so you can keep fine-tuning the environment.
This feels like it goes so far beyond just, managing a task. It's about preserving a person's dignity.
Absolutely. Think about the effect of being corrected all day long. No, not that bottle. You forgot this step. It just chips away at a person's confidence.
Of course.
Stimulus control completely flips that. We stop correcting the person and we start fixing the environment so they can succeed on their own without us saying a word. And that feeling of success, that tells them you are still capable.
Someone listening might hear this and think, isn't this just child-proofing? How is this different from, dumbing down the environment?
That's a great question. There's a critical difference. Childproofing is usually about restricting access, protecting a child from a hazard. Adult-centered design is about optimizing cues.
Okay.
We're not restricting them. We're removing the excess stimuli, the visual noise, that causes the brain to stall. We're simplifying the information, not limiting their ability to complete the task.
Then I have to assume this applies to way more than just showering.
Oh, everywhere. Anywhere the environment demands complex decision-making. You can apply these same principles, declutter, sequence, and prompt lightly to brushing teeth.
One toothbrush, one tube of toothpaste.
Set in order. For eating a meal, maybe only the fork is on the table to start. For taking medication, the pill box is the only thing on the counter. You engineer clarity in the environment, you engineer success in the routine.
So to recap this whole deep dive, the huge takeaway is clarity equals success. By reducing that visual noise, using that subtle prompt hierarchy, and building predictable routines, we can move from guesswork to, well, to clarity.
It's about using behavioral intelligence, even a simple tracker, to create consistency. The result is preserved independence.
Which is what it's all about.
And if we just zoom out for a second, stimulus control challenges our most basic assumptions. When we see confusion or refusal in an aging adult, our first question really shouldn't be, what's wrong with this person?
It should be, what's wrong with this room?
What's wrong with the environment I've created? Imagine how much more compassionate and effective all design would be, from our homes to our products, if we always focused on engineering success instead of just demanding that people comply with a confusing world.